Hi, I'm Susan Rutledge, and in this video I'm going to demonstrate a lot of different techniques. You'll watch me create a seamless Christmas plaid swatch, a seamless pattern brush, a graphic style. I'll do a little drawing with shapes and finish off with an inflate effect on my Merry Christmas wish to you. All of this in Adobe Illustrator. So buckle up and let's get started. I'll move to a document where I already have the colors and the RGB numbers that I'll use for this project. And if you don't know how to use RGB numbers to add the color swatches to your swatches panel, I'll leave a link to a tutorial at the end of this video and it'll show you how to do that. Now, the first thing we'll work on is our seamless Christmas plaid swatch. Anytime I'm working on a seamless swatch, I like to start out with a 6-inch square background. So I'll get the rectangle tool located on the left toolbar. The keyboard shortcut is M. And I'm going to click on the artboard to open the rectangle dialog box, and I'll type in 6 inches for the width. I'll leave the height at 6 inches and say OK. Then get the selection tool, keyboard shortcut V, and let's move this up where it's easier to see. Now I'll get the eyedropper tool, keyboard shortcut I, and I'm going to apply this lighter red to my square. Notice that Illustrator applies the fill color and it removed the black stroke, which is exactly what I wanted. Anytime you're working on a design for a seamless pattern swatch, you want to make sure you don't use strokes or your swatch won't be seamless. Now I'm going to create a series of stripes, and these stripes are going to be different widths, and it's really personal preference as to how you lay those out and how you apply your color. I'm going to get the selection tool, keyboard shortcut V, and click on the artboard to deselect my square. Then get the rectangle tool, keyboard shortcut M, and I'll draw out my first stripe. I want to start in the top left corner of my square. I'm hovering over the anchor. I'm going to press down with my mouse and drag out my first stripe, and I'm going to release my mouse when I see that my stripe is exactly 6 inches tall. I'm going to release my mouse, get the eyedropper tool, keyboard shortcut I, and apply the burgundy red to my stripe. Now, instead of using the rectangle tool over and over again, I'm going to get the selection tool, keyboard shortcut V, and I'm going to copy this stripe. So I'll hold the Option key down to make a copy and the Shift key down, so as I drag in a perfectly horizontal line, and that's going to keep my stripes right in the bounds at the top and the bottom with my square. Now I don't want these to be matchy-matchy, so I'm going to change the width of this quite a bit, and then we'll drag out another one. And I'm going to speed the video up here. Remember, I'm holding down the Option key to make the copy and the Shift key to drag in the horizontal line. And there's really not a right or a wrong way to the number of stripes and the width you choose. It's all a matter of personal preference. Now I'm going to alternate between the eyedropper tool and the selection tool and apply different colors to the stripes. And again, this is just a personal preference. Now, once the color is applied to the stripes, that's a good time to come back and adjust the spacing and the distance between the stripes. Just make sure that you keep the stripes in line at the top and the bottom of your background. Okay, now I'm going to select my first stripe and hold down the Shift key so I can select all of the other stripes at the same time. And then I'll group them, keyboard shortcut, Command G. And then I'm going to make a copy of these. So I'll hold the Option key down and drag out a copy, and then I'm going to rotate this copy. So I'll get the Rotate tool. It's located on the left toolbar. The keyboard shortcut is R. I'm going to rotate and hold down the Shift key because that snaps the rotation at 45-degree increments. And when I have a 90-degree rotation, I'll release my mouse and get the Selection tool, keyboard shortcut V. Now I want to move this set of horizontal stripes and line them up with the top left corner of my square. So I think I have those lined up perfectly. but just in case, I'm going to select everything and I'll click on horizontal align left and then vertical align top. Now I'll click on the artboard to deselect these, and you can see what our design looks like so far, which is virtually nothing like the sample I showed you at the beginning of the video, but we're almost there. I'm going to select the horizontal lines, come over to the Properties panel in the Appearance area under Opacity. I'm going to highlight the 100% and type in 40 and press the Return key. Then I will carefully click on one of the vertical lines. Those are all grouped, so when I select one, I select all of them. Come back over to this opacity area and type in 70% and click on the artboard to deselect those. And this is the finished design I'll use to create my swatch. If I wasn't happy with the way it turned out, this would be the time to make the changes and adjust either the opacity or the spacing of the stripes or the width of the stripes, or even change some of the colors. But I'm happy with how it's turned out, so I'm going to select everything and group it with the keyboard shortcut Command G. Now, there are different ways to create the pattern swatch. I'm going to show you two. The first one with the design selected is to go up to Object, down to Pattern, and over and click on Make. And Illustrator instantly creates the pattern, and it tells me it's been added to my Swatches panel. So I'm going to say OK, and we'll label this one Object Pattern because I clicked on Object first. Just want to be able to tell them apart because in the Swatches panel, they're going to look exactly the same. You can look in the Swatches panel and see our plaid right here, and once I exit out of Pattern Options, the name will even show Object Pattern. So I'm going to close this out here, and close out the Swatches panel. And now I'll show you the other way to create a pattern swatch, and that's to simply drag it into the Swatches panel. But we have to get that panel first, so I'll go up to Window, down to Swatches, and I'll grab the design, and I'm going to drag, and I'm going to just place it right next to the previous design. And Illustrator just gives it the name New Pattern Swatch 24. I could come back in and change the name if I wanted to. I'm not going to worry about that right now, but I am going to grab this tab and drag and dock it next to the Layers tab on the right side of my workspace. Now I can delete this design. I'm going to do that by pressing the delete key, because if I decide I wanted to use the swatch later, all I have to do is come over to the Swatches panel, click down with my mouse, and drag a copy onto the artboard, and I can edit it here. Now the one thing I want to warn you about is this swatch is only going to be in the Swatches panel in this particular document. So if you want to save the swatch, be sure to save the document. All right, let's go back and delete this, and now we can work on creating our tree. I'm going to be using some different shapes. The first one I'll use is a rectangle, so I'll get the rectangle tool, keyboard shortcut M, and click on the artboard to open the rectangle dialog box. And I'll type in 7 inches for the width, tab down and type in 8.2 inches for the height, and say OK. Now it looks like I have an anchor in the top center, but when I hover over it, I see that's just a handle, and I need an anchor here. So I'm going to press down on the plus key on my keyboard, and you can see I have a plus sign here next to my pen tool. I'm going to align my pen tool in the center and right there at the top. And when I see the word intersect, I'll click down with my mouse. Now I'm going to press the minus key on my keyboard because I need to remove a couple of anchors. And you can see the minus sign there with my pen tool. I'm going to come over and click on the top right anchor and the top left anchor and get the selection tool, keyboard shortcut V, and here we have the beginning of our tree. I'll get the rectangle tool, keyboard shortcut M, click on the artboard, let's type in 1.4 inches, tab down, type in 3 inches, say OK. This is going to be the trunk. I'll move it kind of over here in the center, then get the rectangle tool again, Click on the artboard and let's type in 3.5 for the width. Tab down and type in 0.8 for the height and say OK. Get the selection tool, keyboard shortcut V, and I'm just getting these in the general area that I want because I'm going to select all three of these pieces, go to the Properties panel, down to the Align area and click on Horizontal Align Center. I do think I want to move my tree down just a little bit. Now I'm going to select everything, come over to the Properties panel, and in the Pathfinder area, I'm going to click to Unite. And now I have one solid piece, and I'm ready to apply my Christmas plaid to the tree. So I'll come over and click on the color fill icon and click on one of the plaids, and Illustrator applies the design to the tree. Now, generally, I like the way this looks. However, I feel like the pattern is a little too big for this tree, so I'm going to scale it down. Now, it's not going to scale my swatch, only what I'm applying the swatch to here. So I'll click on the artboard to close out the Swatches panel. I'm going to go up to Object, Transform, over and down to Scale. And my whole tree got small, which is not what I wanted, but we're going to fix that. In the Scale dialog box, I want to make sure I have Uniform checked, and I'm going to leave this scale at 45%, but I'm going to come down here, make sure Scale Corners and Scale Strokes and Effects are unchecked, and I'm going to uncheck Transform Objects because I don't want to transform my tree, only the pattern. So now you can see the tree is the original size, but the pattern is at 45%, and I'm liking that a lot better. So I'm going to say OK and click on the artboard to deselect that. Now in my example, I had a couple of strokes around the outside of the tree, and I'm going to add those next. So I'll select my tree, come over to the left toolbar and click on this stroke icon to make it the active color. This brings up a color picker, and I'm able to type in the numbers of the colors that I want to use. We're going to use this light red that we used for the background color, so I'm going to type in 239, tab down, type in 74, tab down, type in 85, and close this out. And then I want to change the width of the stroke to 5 points, and I'll click on the word stroke because I want my stroke to be aligned to the outside of the object. So I'll click here, and now I see a full 5-point stroke around my tree. Now click on the artboard to close that out, and we're going to open the Appearance panel and add a second stroke around the tree. So I'll come over to the Properties panel in the Appearance area and click on the ellipsis. That opens up the Appearance panel. Here I have my 5-point red stroke and my plaid fill. And I can come down to the bottom now and click on the stroke icon and add a new stroke. And Illustrator adds it to the top of the list. And the way layers work, if it's at the top of the list in the Appearance panel, it's going to be in front of all the other layers on the artboard. I want this second stroke to be green, so I'll click on the color, and the easiest way to do this is to come down here and click on the new swatch icon, and that opens up the new swatch dialog, and I can type in the numbers for my stroke color. I'm going to use this dark green here, so I'll type in 29, tab down, 89, tab down, 61, and say OK. Then I'm going to change this to 10 points because I want to be able to see this behind the red. The problem is right now the green is on top of the red. So I've got to drag the green stroke down under the red stroke, and when I do, you're now able to see both of the strokes. So I can close out the Appearance panel and I have the design that I want. Now I'm going to make my star, so I'll come over to the left toolbar, click down with my mouse on the rectangle tool, and in the flyout menu, I'm going to choose this star tool, and I'll hold down the shift key as I drag out because I want my star to have a point that points straight up. I'm going to get this at about 1/2 inch and then get the selection tool, keyboard shortcut V, and place it at the center and a little above my tree. Now I really wanted my star to have the same green stroke around the outside, and I could either go through the process in the appearance panel of creating that again, or I can create a graphic style. And that's what I'm going to do. So I'll come up to Window, down to Graphic Styles, and all I have to do is grab hold of my tree and drag and drop it into the Graphic Styles window, and you can see it right here. So now I can select my star, click on the graphic style, and Illustrator has applied that same green stroke that I have around my tree. I think I want to make just a little line that connects the two of these. So I'll get the line segment tool, keyboard shortcut \. I'll hold the shift key down so I drag in a straight line. Then I'll come over to the stroke color icon and apply this green, which I previously added. Get the selection tool, keyboard shortcut V, and I'll drag this over here and move it to the back. Keyboard shortcut Shift command, left bracket. Now I'm going to use the graphic styles again, so I'm going to grab the tab and drag and dock it next to the other tabs of the panels I'm using, and we'll create our gift package. I'll get the rectangle tool, keyboard shortcut M, click on the artboard and type in 2.8 inches for the width, tab down and type in 0.9 inches for the height, and say OK. I'm going to apply this graphic style. Then I'll get the ellipse tool, keyboard shortcut L, click on the artboard, type in 0.4 inches for the width, tab down, type in 1.3 inches for the height, and say OK. Then we'll once again apply the graphic style. Now that you see how easy this is, I'll bet you'll use graphic styles a lot more. Now I'm going to get the anchor point tool, keyboard shortcut Shift C, and click on this bottom center anchor. Then I'll get the rotate tool, keyboard shortcut R, and I actually want the rotate ball right on the tip here, so I'm going to click down with my mouse. That moves that rotate ball. I'll hold the Option key down as I drag to the right, and that's going to make a copy and rotate at the same time. I'm going to rotate it about 40 degrees, then release my mouse and duplicate that move using the keyboard shortcut Command D. Now I'll get the selection tool, keyboard shortcut V. I'm going to select the 2 copies here and mirror these on the other side. So I'll get the reflect tool, keyboard shortcut O, and place my cursor right at the center here, hold down the Option key and click down with my mouse. This opens the reflect dialog box. I want a vertical reflection, but I want to copy it as well, so I'll press copy and then get the selection tool, keyboard shortcut V, and that's looking pretty good. I'll get the ellipse tool, keyboard shortcut L, click on the artboard and type in 0.25, tab down, type in 0.25, say OK, apply the graphic style, get the selection tool, keyboard shortcut V, and we're going to place our little dot here and then select the bow, group it, keyboard shortcut Command G, and let's put these in place. I'm going to select those and align them and then group them, keyboard shortcut Command G, and put that about here, and then hold down the Option key and the Shift key to drag another copy and keep it in that same horizontal line. Now for the pattern brush, I'll get the ellipse tool, keyboard shortcut L, click on the artboard, and I'm going to use this same size, so I'll say OK. Get the eyedropper tool, keyboard shortcut I, and apply the light red. Then get the selection tool, keyboard shortcut V. I'll hold the Option key down to make a copy and the Shift key to drag in that same horizontal line. And I'm going to duplicate that 3 more times. Command D, Command D, and Command D. Then get the eyedropper tool, keyboard shortcut I. I'm going to apply the dark green here. Select this next one, get the eyedropper tool, change that to the light green. Select the center ball, get the eyedropper tool. We're going to make this one gold. And select this circle here, get the eyedropper tool, and one last color. Then get the selection tool, keyboard shortcut V, and group these circles, keyboard shortcut Command G. Then come up to Window, down to Brushes. And I'm going to click on the new brush icon. And then choose Pattern Brush and say OK. And Illustrator places the balls that are selected into the Pattern Brush dialog box. And I'm just going to leave this the way it is and say OK. And grab the Brushes tab and dock it with the rest of my panels. Then I'll press the Delete key to remove the balls from my artboard. Now I'm going to get the Line Segment tool, keyboard shortcut \, and I'm going to place my cursor at the top of the tree, and I'm just going to drag down to the bottom tip of the tree, and then click on the pattern brush we just created and apply the brush to my stroke. Now I'm going to come to the Properties panel, and I'll reduce this to 0.75, and I'm going to use my arrow key to nudge this over, and I didn't get it quite lined up. So I've got to get the direct selection tool and select this bottom anchor, and I'll use my arrow key to line that up. Now get the line segment tool again, and I'll do the same thing on the other side. We'll drag out a line, open the Brushes panel and apply the pattern brush. Go to the Properties panel, reduce that to 0.75 points, and move this over to the left. Get the direct selection tool, keyboard shortcut A, select that bottom anchor and line that up, and that's looking pretty good. Next, I'll get the Type tool, keyboard shortcut T, and click on the artboard to get some placeholder text. I already have Corner Store JF selected. That's one of the fonts that you're able to download from Adobe, and I'm just going to start typing Merry Christmas. And I do have the spacing reduced a little bit in between the lines. You may want to do that yourself. I'll get the selection tool, keyboard shortcut V. I'm going to move the text here on the tree, get the eyedropper tool, keyboard shortcut I, and apply the gold color. I want to add a drop shadow, so I'll come up to Effect, down to Stylize, and choose Drop Shadow. My mode is multiply, and I'm going to leave all of these settings exactly the way they are. I have a black color here, and I'll say OK. And then, with my text still selected, I'll go back up to Effect, down to 3D and Materials, over and down to Inflate, and I'm going to click on Inflate and close that out. Then get the selection tool, keyboard shortcut V, and deselect everything on my artboard. And wow, we have covered a lot. I hope you've enjoyed this video and learned some new techniques that you can use not just at Christmas, but all year long. I want to invite you to subscribe to my channel now and click that notification bell so you don't miss any of my future tutorials, and I'll look forward to seeing you again next time. Thank you so much for watching. Bye now.